and emptied the tank since it's off the scoot. Emptied it out, but I wanted to fill up a little container to see if anything would solidify, settle out. I put some in this cup yesterday, and it's been warm enough here in Seattle this last couple of days that the gasoline evaporated, but there was an oily looking light lube oil residue on the bottom. And then I got another test one here from just gas I know has been good. So I'll let those evaporate down and see what I get tomorrow again. But it's got this sickly yellow color to it, and I didn't think gasoline would normally have that color, but maybe the additives are doing something to it. But I'm going to see if I can get some sort of separation here from specific gravities. The oil, see if I can get an oil sheen on the top, see if it'll separate and float out. So much for that. I'm pretty sure I got sometimes tanker trucks over here in the Seattle area. A lot of the stations, the big stations, they just pump too much gas, but I don't think the tankers haul anything other than gas. But where I got this over in Yakima on the east side of the mountains, a lot smaller population and a lot more farms. And I think sometimes, I'd known in the past that tankers would sometimes fill up with lube oils or whatever, and then go and then fill up with gasoline, and figured that there was enough gasoline in the tank that it would dilute any oil that was residue was left over. But I don't know. I'll know later. I'm going to do like I said too, I was going to do a coffee filter test. I was going to pour some of it through a coffee filter and see if I get any coloration change as it rises up, wicks up the side of the filter. We'll see what happens. I wanted to do another test of we evaporated off the gasoline. This is the mixed gas from my chainsaw. And it was the particles. I live next to a daycare center, so bear with me. This is just residue falling out of the trees. I'll move the sample I'm going to do in, but there's just basically a little bit of scum left. This is I don't know if you can see it here or not. Yeah, you can see I'll be over in the sunshine. You can see the little bit of oil in here as it moves around. And yeah, I don't know, well, you can't see it. You can see the glistening on my finger. I get back in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean this out on camera. Get rid of all the oil. Trace in here. So we got a clean cup. We got a shot glass. Put 1 ounce in here. We're going to let it evaporate out. This is left my sample, and you can see it's been setting for a few days, and there's no bubbles on the bottom from water. There's no separation on the color. So the mix, it's the specific gravity of whatever this oil is so close to the premium grade gasoline that doesn't really want to separate out. Now, if I had a centrifuge, then I could separate it out. Let's put an ounce in there. Put it into our cup. There's a little bit of spill over here, but not enough that I'm going to worry about my test. We're going to see how much. And that's about what I had the last time for gas in there. I had about an ounce, and I probably had about 1/4 teaspoon of oil in it. So I'll need to get out my old calculator and figure out what the ratio of that, which I'm pretty sure it's biofuel or biodiesel, vegetable oil. It has the consistency and look and feel of vegetable oil. So I don't know if the tankers haul, well, there's no olive plants over in eastern Washington, but there's a lot of farmers probably using biofuel over there. So we'll let that set in the sun and evaporate. and come back later. I ordered a new fuel assembly last night from Metric Parts Online down in Arkansas. They had the best prices. And I also called the Yamaha dealer, Henshaw's Honda down in Auburn, was asking about the antifreeze, and all the antifreezes they have down there are silica and phosphate free. So if you look on the back of your Haviland or whatever, your Peak cans, it says silica and phosphate free, so that's safe to use in your engines. What they used the silica for was to scour the sides of the engine wall, and that silica in there, which is basically another name for sand, and the sand was using like sandblasting the inside of the engine. Well, that would do a number on your impeller and your little motorcycle's pump, and then on the seals. So you want to get that silica and phosphate free, so that'll come up next. Let me let this set in the sun for a while. We'll come back later. Well, I'm back again. I finally got my other cup. Remember, we measured 1 ounce with the shot glass into here, and finally it has evaporated all the gas out, so I just have the heavier material in here. And I told you I was going to do a coffee filter test. I'd poured some, I guess you can see it, a little bit of discoloration. One had the, pardon me, one had the oil-based stuff in it, and this one was straight gas. But they both kind of, you can kind of see how it goes and gets darker up along the fringes. It didn't really show me enough separation, but I got my quarter teaspoon here. Let's pour what we got out into the cup. Come on. Well, it's not a full quarter, but there's still a lot left in here. I gotta find a way to get it out without spilling it all over the place. So I'll hold it here and see what I got. I went online to see what relationship a quarter of a teaspoon had to anything, to the 1 ounce shot glass. And thanks to Google, which I hate Google Plus, love Google but hate Google Plus. I'd use the F-bomb with Google Plus. 1 ounce equals 6 teaspoons, and 6 times 4 quarters gives you 24. So I'm looking at about, get off there, I'd say maybe a fifth of a teaspoon. So if this had been a full quarter, then the ratio oil to gas would have been 23 to 1. So I'm probably looking somewhere around maybe 25 to 1 by the time the rest of it gets in here. I know it may drain out to a full. So I'm going to say somewhere around 25 to 1 was the ratio of whatever this oil was to the gasoline. And my old Bultaco, I guess it ran about 20 to 1, maybe 24 to 1. Which is about right. I could have ran this fuel through my Bultaco and it would have been fine. Through the T-Max, not so much. And like I said before, the closer I got home and the lower the level in the tank became, the more it choked. So, some of my precious fluid is draining on. I think if I waited here long enough, I could get almost a full quarter teaspoon. So I'm still going to say 24 to 1, 25 to 1 was the ratio of what this oil, which was either a light lube oil or maybe some biodiesel, probably around the oil. It might have been hydraulic oil too, as light as it is. So something was in that tank, and that tanker truck dropped off at that gas station, even though they rejected I didn't really make a claim, as per se for any damages or anything. I just wanted to tell them about that they had fuel in their or oil in their fuel, and they said, "Oh, we got all these testers in the tank and whatever to find that." Well, as you can see, in the big jug. I mean, there's no separation, and it's been sitting in there for since the probably about 3rd of June. And this is what today is, 14th, 13th. So it's no big change. I think if I'd had a centrifuge like you've seen in high school chemistry class, where you put the test tubes in and it spins them around, it would have separated it out just fine. But neither that nor here. If you ever suspect that you've got something in your fuel, to stick in like a wine thief or something into your tank to siphon out some, and then use a shot glass to measure it off, or just anything, to put the gasoline into a little container and set it in the sun, let the gasoline volatiles, evaporate, and see what you got behind. Water will show up as little bubbles on the bottom, and I think heavier oil would have separated out and left me something higher on top. But this stuff is so close to the specific gravity of gasoline that it thoroughly mixed. And then possibly the way this T-Max recycles as the pump's going, I'm assuming. Now I'm going to do a test in the future to see how that pump works when I get the old one out and I have one to demonstrate with in a clear container. But that pump is, the injectors can only take so much fuel at any one time, so the excess 35 pounds that the pump's putting out has got to flow back into the tank, because there's no provision on the pump itself motor to know when or when not to stop. So that little pressure relief valve in there, I'm thinking when it gets hot, that O-ring in there expands up and jams open, so that when you start up your scoot, it just runs inside the tank, and you never get enough to, you may get enough pressure for idling, and that's it. It won't go up enough RPM to get the clutch going to where you can go. Usually it chokes at around 1500 RPM. So enough of that. This will clear this. I'm still waiting for the thermostat to come in, so getting back to putting it together or putting the T-Max back together will be coming up in a later show. But I just wanted to make this one on for you to, if you suspect your fuel, this is a good way to test it. So I'll see you later.